Tonight, the deadly storms that ravage the Midwest and South are now moving east. A federal judge orders the Trump administration to stop deporting immigrants to El Salvador after hundreds have already been sent. And a new development in the case of the college student who went missing in the Dominican Republic. We begin with the devastating storms that have left at least 36 dead. More than 60 reported tornadoes spanning 8 states. Homes in Mississippi torn apart. Winds of 165 miles an hour blasting a town in Arkansas. One survivor says she and her mother are blessed to be alive. The same system already fueling wildfires in the plains as the storms head east. Ginger Z is tracking it all from the storm zone. Also tonight, a federal judge orders a temporary halt to deportations of suspected Venezuelan gang members. The Trump administration has already sent hundreds to prisons in El Salvador, citing a rarely used wartime declaration. The search for a college student who vanished on spring break takes another turn. Police have now confiscated the passport of a key witness. The manhunt in New York City for a suspect who allegedly set a man on fire in Times Square. Houthi rebels are vowing revenge after U.S. airstrikes in Yemen. President Trump watched the attack unfold from Florida and promises to use, quote, overwhelming lethal force until the Houthis stop attacking ships in the Red Sea. Dozens are killed after a nightclub catches fire, trapping the victims inside. Police say they're investigating whether the operators bribed officials to keep it operating. Starbucks is ordered to pay $50 million to a man who was burned by hot tea. What the company is saying about the verdict. The Vatican releases the first image of Pope Francis in more than a month and an update on his condition. Before March Madness comes Selection Sunday. Who's going to the big dance? And America Strong tonight, the baby they always wanted and the remarkable way he came into their lives.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us on this busy Sunday. I'm Lindsay Davis. As we come on the air, that deadly storm system that killed dozens of people and spawned more than 60 reported tornadoes throughout the Midwest and the South is now tearing through the East Coast. Heavy rain and thunderstorms are forecast for the I-95 corridor tonight into tomorrow morning. Take a look at these images just coming in of the driving rain and strong winds today in State College, Pennsylvania. Since Friday, tornadoes were reported across 8 states. This is Tylertown, Mississippi. At least 3 people died in the area. In southern Alabama, heavy rain and powerful winds knocked out power and caused significant damage. And in Oklahoma, residents are trying to salvage what was spared. Powerful winds from that same storm system helped to fuel fires that destroyed nearly 300 structures, including this man's home. The region is facing a new round of critical fire danger this week. We'll have the forecast in just a minute. But first, ABC News Chief Meteorologist Ginger Z leads us off tonight from Mississippi.
Tonight, the death toll rising from a 3-day severe weather outbreak ravaging parts of the Midwest and South. It's claimed more than 36 lives. More than 60 tornadoes reported in 8 states since Friday. This is the damage left behind in Tylertown, Mississippi, southwest of Hattiesburg. It's kind of amazing to think here at the Paradise Ranch RV Resort that no one was hurt. Many of the cabins were not occupied at the time. They are just a mangled mess in between what looks like a clear cutting of these pines by that tornado. The manager tells us they are so grateful it happened this weekend and not next, when they expect more than 250 campers here. And north of Hattiesburg, this twister striking the town of Taylorsville.
A strong tornado is approaching your area. If you're not in your safe space, you need to be there.
As it neared, Claudia Hernandez hearing the warnings on TV.
I called my 91-year-old mother, and she come over, and we all got in our storm shelter. There was like 16 of us, and as fast as it hit, it was over, and we're blessed to be alive.
A classic trail of destruction. West of Jonesboro, Arkansas, a high-end EF3 tornado with winds of 165 miles per hour tearing through Cave City. Ashton Vickers says she's never seen anything like this happen here before.
This is my hometown, and just to see it the way it is just heartbreaking. It almost makes you want to cry.
In Talladega County, Alabama, an EF2 tornado with winds up to 120 miles per hour hurtling this empty school bus into the old Winterboro gym. The roof and many of the walls gone. In Oklahoma, powerful winds from the same system fueling wildfires that have destroyed nearly 300 homes and structures, claiming at least 1 life. Our Maria Villarreal is near Norman, Oklahoma.
This is one of the 300 structures burned in this state. You can see right behind me the damage that was done to this metal. And now the same area of Oklahoma is facing another round of critical fire danger in the coming days.
This deep spring storm also whipping up dust in Texas, blinding drivers and causing crashes. This is what it looked like on Interstate 27 north of Lubbock Friday. The National Weather Service from New Orleans has been out here today with 2 teams looking at the damage, like this cabin wrapped around this tree, that debris field, and the clear cutting of trees that goes on for miles. And they have given this tornado a preliminary rating of EF2, winds minimum 111 miles per hour. These ratings are going to take some time because there were just that many tornadoes. And this storm is still active. Look at the map. You can see the actual low pressure system now exiting the lower peninsula of Michigan. There's actually snow on the backside that gave them a little dusting. But on the front end of it, you can see that front bring 40 to 50 mile per hour gusts from Delaware and New Jersey through Philadelphia up into New York. There are flood watches for almost all of Vermont and northern New York there. So as that front comes through, we lose this storm finally by tomorrow. But we've got another one we're watching already. The Bay Area will have gusts over 45 miles per hour tonight. Sierra Nevada, feet of snow. And do you see all those red flag warnings again from the high plains right on over to Kansas City? That's a problem for tomorrow into early Tuesday morning. Not only do they have relative humidities as low as 10 to 20%, but match that with these winds. Look at that, gusts up to 50 miles per hour in parts of the Cascades. And then by the time we reach Monday night and Tuesday, that's when it gets over to the plains. So hard hit with the fires, and they'll do it again tomorrow night. Lindsay.
And already astounding damage. Ginger, our thanks to you. Now to the battle over immigration. This weekend, the Trump administration deported hundreds of Venezuelans it says are members of a notorious gang, sending them to a prison in El Salvador. The White House is invoking a little-used but controversial law from 1798. Sources tell ABC News the administration made a calculated decision to ignore a federal judge's directive to turn the flights around. Here's ABC senior White House correspondent Selina Wang.
Tonight, the Trump administration sharing this dramatic video from the president of El Salvador showing alleged Venezuelan gang members arriving to his country overnight, marching into prison. The administration deporting hundreds of Venezuelans from the U.S. that they accuse of being members of Tren de Aragua, despite a federal judge yesterday ordering the administration to temporarily cease deportations under the Alien Enemies Act. The president invoking the obscure wartime law from 1798 that was partially used to intern Japanese Americans during World War II, allowing the government to deport non-citizens without due process. The judge saying during yesterday's hearing, any plane containing these folks that is going to take off or is in the air needs to be returned to the United States. The president of El Salvador posting, "Oopsie, too late," in response to an article about the court order. Sources tell ABC News the Trump administration made a calculated decision to ignore the judge's ruling to turn around the flights because they were already over international waters. But in a filing today, the Department of Justice claiming some gang members subject to removal under the act were deported before the court's order. The White House saying Tren de Aragua is a direct threat to the national security of the United States. These heinous monsters were extracted and removed to El Salvador, where they will no longer be able to pose any threat to the American people.
They never should have been allowed into our country in the first place. It's our responsibility to protect our families, to keep our streets clean and safe. And that's exactly what the president said he was going to do, and that's what you're seeing being executed right now. We will follow the law.
Lindsay, President Trump is thanking the president of El Salvador for accepting the alleged gang members. And tonight, a White House official tells me that the administration has been in compliance with the court order. The Trump administration is now asking the D.C. Circuit Court to halt the federal judge's decision. Lindsay?
Selina Wang from the White House, thank you. Now we turn overseas. Yemen's Houthi rebels are vowing to retaliate after U.S. strikes. The White House released a photo of President Trump watching as American forces carried out the attacks. The Houthis claim at least 53 people were killed. ABC's Christian Cordero has the latest.
Rising tensions in the Middle East tonight, just 24 hours after President Trump launched a large-scale attack on Iranian-backed Houthi rebels inside Yemen. New video shows smoke rising from an explosion. U.S. officials say last night's strikes hit dozens of missiles, radars, drone and air defense systems in Yemen. At least 53 people have been killed and nearly 100 injured. The Houthis promised to respond, claiming they launched retaliatory missiles and a drone at USS Harry Truman in the Red Sea, the same aircraft carrier that sent these fighter jets to strike Yemen. However, a U.S. official tells ABC News their claim wasn't true. The Biden administration had also conducted airstrikes against the Houthis, but President Trump vows this time is different, writing Iran's support for the group who's targeted commercial vessels and U.S. Navy ships at one of the world's most vital shipping routes must end immediately.
It is Iran that has repeatedly funded, resourced, trained, and helped the Houthis target not only U.S. warships, but global commerce, and has helped the Houthis shut down two of the world's most strategic sea lanes.
Lindsay, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz was asked by our Martha Raddatz today if there was any chance of direct U.S. military action against Iran. Waltz responded, all options are on the table and that Iran's support for the Houthis, quote, will be stopped. Lindsay?
Christian, thank you. Tonight, authorities in the Dominican Republic are focusing on the last person they believe saw a missing college student alive. Officials seized the passport of Joshua Uribe, an American college senior, and they say they're examining possible inconsistencies in his story. ABC's Erielle Reshef has the latest from Punta Cana.
Tonight, Joshua Uribe, the man police believe to be the last person to have seen missing University of Pittsburgh student Sadiqa Kananki, facing questions from Dominican prosecutors. Officials confiscating his passport, the 22-year-old from Iowa interviewed by authorities at the Punta Cana hotel where he and Kananki had been staying with their friends. Uribe sitting for hours of questioning, walking investigators through the details of that early morning, even going with them and his lawyers to the beach where police believe Kananki vanished. For days, local authorities have maintained Uribe is not a suspect and he has not been charged with any crime. Police saying he is still being considered a witness to a possible drowning. But now, sources familiar with the investigation say the lead prosecutor is examining possible contradictions in his story. According to a transcript obtained by ABC News earlier this week, Uribe told prosecutors he and Kananki met the night before she disappeared, drinking with friends before heading to the beach on their own around 4 a.m. The two were kissing in the ocean, he said, when they were slammed by a large wave and started to struggle in the surf. He claimed he tried to save her, saying, "I was holding her under my arm and swimming. It was hard. I was a pool lifeguard, not the ocean. Then, when I finally touched the sand, I put her in front of me. Then she got up to go get her stuff, since the ocean had moved us." He told prosecutors he passed out on the beach and awoke thinking Kananki had gone inside. Hotel cameras capturing him returning to his room that morning.
Lindsay, again, Uribe is not a suspect, and this is still being investigated as an accident. His lawyers say he's being held illegally in his hotel, and they expect him to face more questioning tomorrow. Lindsay?
Erielle, thank you. At least 59 people were killed and more than 100 injured when pyrotechnics caught fire in an overcrowded nightclub in North Macedonia. Authorities say the club was operating illegally and was able to stay open thanks to bribery and corruption. Only 3 members of the popular band that was performing at the time survived. Details now from ABC's Patrick Reevell.
Tonight, this is the moment a devastating fire began at a packed concert. As the local band plays, flames starting to spread across the ceiling, caused by the pyrotechnic display. The nightclub in North Macedonia engulfed. Local authorities say at least 59 were killed and 155 injured, almost all aged just 18 to 24. Several members of that popular band on stage called DNK also among the dead. Outside a hospital, victims' relatives gathering, grief-stricken and angry. 22-year-old Maria Tasieva managed to escape, but not her sister. "I was saved and she wasn't," she says. Police launching an investigation, saying the club was operating illegally and at least twice over its 250-person capacity. Police have detained at least 15 people, including the club's organizer, as well as ex and current officials. They say they're also investigating possible corruption that allowed the club to keep operating with a fake license. Lindsay.
Patrick, thanks so much. An urgent manhunt is underway here in New York City. Authorities are searching for a suspect they say set a man on fire in Times Square overnight. The victim is said to be in stable condition and suffered burns to his face and arms. He told police a man approached him, then threw liquid on him and ignited it. Today is the day college basketball fans have been waiting for, Selection Sunday. ABC's Faith Abube has been following all the picks from Atlanta.
Tonight, more madness in March.
Congratulations to the Florida Gators.
The last few teams punching their tickets to the tournament.
VCU, the A-10 tournament champions, and they're going to the dance.
After a season full of upsets and buzzer beaters, the NCAA Selection Committee unveiling the 68 teams on both the men's and women's side that'll vie for a national championship. On the men's side, all eyes on Auburn, Duke, Houston, and Florida.
Who drives and lays it in.
All earning top seeds. But it's the historic win by St. John's and their Hall of Fame coach, Rick Pitino, that has many talking about a deep run in the tournament.
I've lost in the first round. I've been to 7 Final Fours.
Tessa Johnson lays it in.
On the women's side, defending champ South Carolina looks to repeat and continue their reign as UCLA, USC, and Texas are expected to challenge them as top seeds. For USC's Juju Watkins, the favorite for National Player of the Year, this tournament is about redemption after making it to the Elite Eight last year. The Trojans, knocked out by Paige Beckers and the UConn Huskies, enter this year with their own chip on their shoulder.
The women's game is just full of star power once again this year.
And the first 4 games on the men's side begin on Tuesday. The women kick off on Wednesday, meaning it is time to start filling out those brackets. Lindsay.
Things just heating up, Faith. Thank you. There's still much more ahead on World News Tonight this Sunday, including the first image of Pope Francis helping to celebrate Mass in a Rome hospital. And Starbucks is hit with a multi-million-dollar jury verdict after a customer suffered severe burns. Today, the Vatican released the first picture of Pope Francis in more than a month. It shows Francis co-celebrating Mass in a hospital chapel. The Pope has been receiving treatment for a respiratory illness for the past 31 days and is now in stable condition. When we come back, the Starbucks lawsuit, a jury awards millions after a customer was burned by hot tea. Next tonight, a Los Angeles jury has awarded a man $50 million after he was seriously burned by a Starbucks drink. Security camera video shows hot tea landing in Michael Garcia's lap. Garcia blamed an employee for not securing the cup in the takeout tray. Starbucks says it disagrees with the jury's decision that it was at fault. It also called the damages excessive and plans to appeal. When we come back, for years they'd hoped to be parents. The unexpected way this baby came into their lives. And finally tonight, baby made 3 when they least expected it. Ever since they married 15 years ago, Chris Martinez and his wife Janae have wanted to start a family.
We unfortunately had to deal with infertility stuff, and the day the doctor told me you're not, be able to be a mother, it was like the most devastating day.
They then decided to become foster parents, and months after they stopped fertility treatment, something miraculous happened. Chris was on duty as a firefighter in New Mexico when a newborn baby was safely surrendered at his fire station in the Safe Haven baby box, where people can leave a baby if they're unable to care for it.
He was pretty blue. He had a low temperature. He only weighed 5 pounds.
Chris and his fellow firefighters jumped into action, delivering oxygen to the tiny newborn and rushing him to the hospital.
I already knew right away that I'm going to do everything in my power to make this my son and be there for him. And being that he was dropped at our fire station, I felt like a special connection with him.
Over the next month, Chris and Janae visited Michael every day in the hospital, later fostering him at home. Then on Monday, just over a year after Chris and Janae took little Michael home, he was officially adopted, becoming a forever member of the Martinez family.
It was just God just putting him in our hands, and, it's just fate.
Look at that, father and son right there. Thanks so much for watching. David Muir right back here tomorrow night. I'm Lindsay Davis in New York. Have a great evening. I'll see you on GMA tomorrow. Until then, good night.
Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir, America's most watched newscast.